Greetings, everybody. Welcome. It is week 6, and by popular demand, I'm going to post a walkthrough video on a Tuesday, which I normally don't do. But I've had a couple of different questions about this week's assignment, so it's a good time to check in. So let's take a look at this week in the course. I'm also going to open a Word document so that we can have access to that. So bear with me while I get the right. There we go. So we're in student view, so this should look exactly like you are seeing it. As I mentioned, we're in week 6, and this week we are starting something fairly new. We've talked about it before, but some folks are finding it confusing, and I understand. The formal analytical report is the major assignment for ENC2210. So the best way to think of it is if you had, say, a history class or a psychology class, and you had other activities that you'd done throughout the semester, but you have a major paper due at the end of the term or close to the end of the term. In a literature class, you might have the same sort of thing where you may write smaller papers, but you have one kind of big assignment at the end. So that's essentially what we are doing. The formal analytical report is exactly what it sounds like. It is you taking an issue or a problem or a question from your field of choice and analyzing it using research and other skills, your own analysis skills, for example. The formal analytical report has a sort of set formatting, like here's the things that you would cover in a formal analytical report. But some of those may or may not be relevant depending on what you're talking about. If you remember back at the beginning, we went over, or we did the experience and interest inventory. And I mentioned at that time, and we'll reiterate here, that one of the reasons I wanted you to think about your past experience, what you plan to do in your future, but also what you're just interested in, is that when it comes to writing technical writing documents, like we've done in the recent portfolio and what we're doing in the formal analytical report, I want you to have a variety of areas to choose from. So most of the time when somebody's writing a formal analytical report, it is because they are already engaged in a field and they are writing a document for, say, their boss or a client. Because we are in school and we are not doing this for a job that we're getting paid for, there's always going to be a little bit of a falseness to it, as far as like you don't have a specific real audience. But I want you to make this as real as you possibly can. So when it comes to technical writing, in the last assignment, one of the things I had you do was consider your audience. And so if I am in accounting and I am analyzing a particular software that's available for accountants, my audience might be fellow accountants. If I am working at a business that manages real estate, for example, and I'm writing an analytical report for a particular client or potential client, showing them how can we manage your portfolio better than our competitors. Or I might be analyzing a particular property for my boss to try to obtain. So in this course, most of the writing that we're doing is stuff that you would normally actually do. The formal analytical report is one of those. But you don't have to do it about your work topic. If you want to write about one of your interests or hobbies, you are more than welcome to do it. In fact, I really encourage you to, because one of the things that is usually true of a formal analytical report is that when you are writing them, you are oftentimes already have a level of expertise. You may not have a level of expertise in dentistry if you plan to go to dental school, because you're not there yet. But you do have a level of expertise in doing a podcast, if you're already doing a podcast. So, or if you're interested in starting a podcast, because that's something that you can research and find out. So that's what we're doing. And this week is all about choosing your topic. Now, your topic choice is in quiz format. It is not a quiz in the sense of a quiz. It's not a test. It is you telling me what you're going to write about. It's only in quiz format because it's easier to collect that information in a quiz within Canvas than it is to have you write up some big formal thing. You're going to be writing plenty of separate documents. Next week, you're going to give me your initial bibliography where you're going to share your research. The week after that, you're going to have an outline with an updated bibliography and so on and so forth. So as we go through the next few weeks, you are doing pieces, you are planning, you are doing the writing process on your formal analytical report. And this week, the only thing that you're really providing is, here's what I'm going to write about. So let's take a look at this week's module. By the way, 7 and 8 are now available. So I'm working on it. Only one more week before spring break comes in the list. So we're getting there. So let's take a look. Oops, I could go to the right one. Let's take a look at week 6. So in week 6, we're beginning the major assignment for the formal analytical report. This big project will allow learners to explore a research question in an area of their own interest. Most of you will choose topics related to your chosen field of study or work, but other areas of interest are fair game as well. In terms of our learning materials, we don't really have a new reading assignment this week, but remember, there's all kinds of information about formal analytical reports in our online textbook. So I've put the link there, especially the sample reports that are linked at the end. I also found a really good resource from Oklahoma State University on formal analytical reports. So I want you to read the chapter there. So it's not from our textbook, but it is from a similarly open sourced textbook. And then I've got a lecture video on the project. So I'm trying not to repeat everything I said on the lecture video, but I might do some. So we'll see what happens. But people who had watched the video had the questions, so I will see if I can go a little further and answer those questions. So in terms of the assignment itself, let's go ahead and look at the assignment and talk about how to complete it. Like I said, it is in quiz format, but it is not a quiz. You just want to make sure that you don't submit it until you are done with it, okay? So there's a link back to the formal analytical report. You want to make sure that you read that carefully. So let's go ahead and take a look at it, and then go from there. So the objective of the formal analytical report, the big assignment, is for students, you, to conduct in-depth research, analyze trends, and present a formal analytical report in their chosen field of study or interest. This project aims to enhance your research and analytical skills, as well as your ability to communicate findings in a formal report format. So we are practicing skills that are transferable into other study. As if you're going to be writing, research reports in other educational settings, but also in the quote unquote real world, because again, these are things that you might actually do in work. Now, ours will maybe look a little bit different because it is still written for school. So we're going to use APA formatting, for example, and we're going to have an APA references page, and we're going to have some of those things that you wouldn't necessarily have, or you might have in a different form in the work world. So the first order of business is to select your focus area. So really this week we're focusing on number 1, but I do want to, kind of preview the rest of it. Choose a specific aspect, issue, or trend within your field of study or interest that you find compelling and worthy of analysis. This could be a current trend, emerging technology, a policy issue, or any other relevant topic. I will give you an example of one of the best and most fun to read formal analytical reports I ever had was from a student who was interested in archaeology, and in fact was taking an anthropology class with at Lake Sumter. And so her research for this class helped her inform her project in her other class. They were different projects, but they were both about the use of drones in archaeology. I can't talk today. Some other things that have been really good. I've had students in like in the criminal justice field talk about specific emerging technologies or things that are the policy issues come up, things like the use of body cams, things of that nature. If you're interested in education, of course, AI is a hot topic. Quite frankly, I have a couple of colleagues in my day job who are obsessed with AI, and I am really tired of hearing about it. But if it's something that you're interested in and you can make it interesting to you, then it'll be interesting to me. So I will deal with it. But that's one that's coming up a lot in education. If you're talking about education in the state of Florida, not to raise a political flag, but the defunding of diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives at the college and university level is a big hot topic in education in Florida right now. In primary and secondary education, there's always been a lot of discussion about the use of testing, standardized testing. We have recently the legislature made it to where sociology can no longer be part of the gen eds. There's a lot of hot topics in education in Florida. And I'm not trying to sway you one direction or another, but a lot of the stuff that's been going on in Florida is cuckoo crazy. It doesn't matter which side of the aisle you reside on. If you're in education, you're like, what the heck is going on? But anyway, so it can be anything. It can be from any field. It can be anything that you want. But you are writing about it in analytical form. So it needs to be something that you could analyze. So it could have some controversy to it. It could be more based on technology. It could be something that we just see happening. We just recently, of course, had the Super Bowl, and my team won, by the way. But in football, for example, there's been a ton of stuff written in the last quite a few years now. It's been going on, but the head injury thing. There's trends in sports. There's literally not a field that you could not do this in. The next step is to do the research. Now, in most real world scenarios, for a formal analytical report, it might involve you being in the field and doing things in the field, talking to people, gathering actual experimental data. Obviously, that is not something that we can really do in a few weeks in college. So you are going to mostly be utilizing the library for academic journals and industry reports. You certainly can also collect information from credible websites. If you have access to human beings that are in that field, then you could do some data gathering and research that way. You still document it just like you do if you're documenting something that you read in a journal on the library site. You can interview people and conduct data gathering that way. Most of the thing here is that your research needs to be thorough and it needs to be up to date. Now, when it says comprehensive, again, we don't have weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks to do this. And I mean, to be fair, in the work world, you probably don't have weeks and weeks and weeks to do something either. Here's write this report and you've got to gather that data pretty quickly, but you do want to be thorough in how you gather the data. So for example, I mentioned the cuckoo crazies that are happening in education in the state of Florida. In order to be comprehensive, you are going to need to research both sides or all sides of that controversial decision. So your goal would not be to argue one way or the other necessarily. You are providing an overview of what's happened, and you are going to make some recommendations. You do want to use current research. You want to be as up to date as possible. When you are searching in the library, for example, you can limit how far back you want to go. So I always do with topics like these, I tend to go back no more than 5 years. Especially if it's technology based, you're getting very outdated information. So there's a proviso there. Next, of course, is that you're coming up with your thesis, what is the deal? What are you aiming to address? And it's called in formal analytical reports the research question. So this is going to guide your analysis and provide a focus. But if it helps you to think of it as a thesis, because that's something you're more familiar with, that's what we're getting at there. Analyzing, of course, the data, using appropriate analytical methods relevant to your field of study. Again, if this was out in the real world, you might be doing lab experiments. This is not that kind of a report, but you are going to be reading a lot and looking at things. You can also look at videos. There's all kinds of things that you can do with that. Discuss the implications of these findings on the broader context of your chosen focus area. You are going to then formulate recommendations based on your analysis. Formulate well-grounded recommendations or insights that address the issues or opportunities identified. Consider the practical applications of your recommendations. So, for example, if you were going to say, let's say you were writing about the use of body cams in police forces, you would need to include the practical realities of that. How much does that cost? How much would that cost a particular police force? And you can even focus on your particular police force in your particular area. The more real and practical you can make it, the better. In terms of structure, you will have a formal report structure. You are going to need to have a table of contents. So you are going to be using the headings and subheadings like we've been trying to build up to all semester. So you will follow that kind of report structure with a title page, an executive summary, which is essentially the equivalent of an abstract if you ever used APA more than a couple of years ago. The table of contents, an introduction, methodology, and it is applicable in terms of, for us, conducting research using libraries. Methodology implies this is the data set and this is the sample size, and the hardcore research, you can still summarize what you did for finding the information. Findings and analysis, that's where you're presenting, here's the data that I got, here's the recommendations, and then a conclusion where you will kind of have a reflective statement, which we'll look at in a second. And then, of course, the references. You do need to have visuals in this particular document, clearly labeled, and, formatted the way that we've been working on it. I know a couple of folks have reported having some problems when they're using Office 365, and I'm going to do a little research on it. You can always manually create a caption, but I would prefer that you use Word's tools because it really does make things easier. But anyway, in the conclusion, you are going to write a reflective statement that discusses your approach to the research and analysis, challenges encountered, and the significance of your finding in the broader context of your field. This particular assignment, you cannot revise. So you're going to have a chance to turn in a draft. You're going to have chances to get help with it, but there is no resubmission on this particular one. So it's a little bit different from what we've done. So that's the report itself. That final version of the report is due March 31st. So you got plenty of time, but it is important that we start on it now. All right, so that's the assignment itself. So for this week's assignment, for this submission, you'll be writing an introductory paragraph, a rough outline, and if you have found some sources, you're going to include those as well. You will give me a full bibliography next week. So if you don't have sources yet, not a big deal, but it's a good idea to kind of, have that. This is going to be done in a Word document. I take it back. I remember now that I did switch that around a little bit. So you are going to have an APA cover page. You're going to have the intro and the outline begin on page 2, then the bibliography, and it's same as we've been doing, but this will be completely plain double spaced and written in, whatever form helps, but you will double space it. You will treat it just like an APA document. So when you are ready, you click on Start Assignment, and then you will need to upload your file, and you will submit that. All right. So what is it going to look like? Well, let's look at the Word document. It is an APA document, so it is going to have a page number in the header on the right margin. On page 1, we're going to switch to double spacing. Let me go ahead and do that. And we're going to scroll down a little bit. We're going to center the title here in bold. Doesn't have to be fancy for now. Below that, of course, is going to be your name. I was just watching an interview with Sam Rockwell, so we're going to use him. The next line is Department of English, like Sumter State College. We are in ENC 2210. Your teacher's name is Jackie Pierce, and the date. And of course, it's due Sunday. So let's put Sunday's date just to be helpful, which is the 18th. So I'm going to put February 18, 2024. Okay. The next item will be, we're going to insert a page break. And we're going to center the title again. Unbold. And then, like I said, on page 2, you're going to start with the introduction, and then you're going to have an outline and an initial bibliography where appropriate. So let's do what we've been doing and go ahead and keep our good habits and use the styles pane. We're going to have heading 1 will be introduction. We will write our introduction. Oh, and I said to double space it, so I'll change that. And did it when I started doing fancy stuff. Okay, so let's double space that. And then let's put another heading 1, which will be an outline. And this, you should use outline format. If you're using Microsoft Word, it will do it for you. So create an outline. If you don't have like 1s and A's and B's and whatever, if you have a list of the things that you want to include, I'm okay with that. But Microsoft Word will do a formal outline for you. So, hey, try it out. So let's change this over to a real, quote unquote, real outline. And then, oh, I don't want the whole thing to be though. No, no, no. I just want this to be. Let me just try this. Okay, let's make an outline now. Oh, maybe it's because of the headings. Okay, let me just, there we go. All right, so let's do that. And then if you have sub things, you can tab over and it's gonna let you put sub points underneath, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so. Oh, yeah, let's do that. All I'm doing, by the way, when I'm showing this is I'm hitting the shift and the tab key to go back. So it is good to have an outline start out on the reel. Okay. So there we go. So that shows us some topics and some subtopics. We'll just leave it at that. Below that, you're going to have your references page. If you are including some sources, and I would encourage you to have at least a couple things that you've looked at, we're going to insert a page break and we're going to do a regular APA references page. So it will be a little bit different. We're going to center and bold the heading references. We are going to be double spacing. I don't know why it keeps turning that off, but it's driving me crazy. Double space it. And then, oops, not bold. But of course, it will have a hanging indent because it is a reference page. So you'll do real, normal, APA references. Okay, I'm only going to put that. So I'm going to save this and put it in the announcement with this video, so you can use it if you so desire. And like I said, I'm gonna try, I don't have access very easily to Office 365 on this computer. So I'm gonna have to make a separate video for that, but I will check it out and see if I can figure it out for those of you who are having trouble with the figure numbers and all that on the in Word. All right. Take care, everybody. Ooh, I wonder if I can do it directly through here. Let's see. Nope. Oh, because I'm in student view. Let me see if I leave student view, if I can do it. No, now it's not going to let me because I can't put something in. I'll look. I'll see if I can figure it out. See if it'll let me do it here. Well, here, let's look at an old syllabus. Let's see if we can put something in it. All right. So I'm in Office 365 and I want to put a visual and caption it. So I'm just going to scroll down here to where it's kind of out of the way. No, let's put it right in the beginning. All right. So let's say that I want to put a photo here. Let's do insert and we want to choose picture. Let's choose something from this device. And let's choose my one that I always like to use because it's a nice small size. All right. So in regular Word, when we want to do the captioning and the figure numbering, we need to click on formatting, I believe, because that's how we do it in the regular Word. So let's click on that and see what we get. It does allow us to give alternative text and a description, but I don't necessarily need, let's say, a visual to share. See if it does anything. It does not. Reference. Review. All right. Layout maybe? Nope. Okay. I'll have to do some more digging, but I thought I could solve it right in front of you. And then I would seem even more brilliant than I already do. But I can't, so I will see if I can figure it out. All right, everybody take care. If you have any questions, please, if there are questions about the assignment, go ahead and post them in the Q&A discussion board so that I can answer them for everybody at once. Otherwise, of course, you can always inbox me. Talk to you guys soon. Take care.